Ambassador Jake Morrison stared out the viewport of his transport ship as the massive Galactic Council station came into view. The structure was unlike anything humanity had ever built, stretching across space like a metal city floating among the stars. Crystalline towers twisted upward from the main hub, while dozens of docking bays lined its outer rim. Ships from across the galaxy moved in and out of those bays, like insects around a hive. Jake had spent months preparing for this moment. Earth's first official contact with the galactic government that ruled over 47 different species. The responsibility weighed heavily on his shoulders, but he felt ready. 20 years of diplomatic service had taught him how to find common ground between opposing sides. He had ended wars between human colonies and negotiated trade deals that seemed impossible. Surely he could convince these aliens that humanity deserved a place among the stars. The transport pilot, a nervous young woman named Kelly Price, announced their approach to Docking Bay 7. Jake straightened his formal Earth diplomatic uniform and checked his briefcase one final time. Inside were detailed reports about human civilization, scientific achievements, and cultural diversity. Everything he needed to make the case for humanity's peaceful integration into galactic society. The docking procedure took nearly an hour. The Council's technology was clearly advanced beyond anything humans possessed, but Jake noticed it seemed overly complex. Multiple scans and security checks that could have been handled by simple systems. Perhaps this was normal for a government, managing dozens of different species with different technologies and biologies. When the airlock finally opened, Jake got his first glimpse of alien life. The greeting party consisted of 3 beings unlike anything from Earth's imagination. The leader stood nearly 8 feet tall with blue-green scales covering its reptilian features. 6 eyes arranged in 2 rows studied Jake with obvious disdain. Behind the reptilian being stood a creature that seemed to be made of living crystal, its body reflecting the station's lights in rainbow patterns. The third being defied description entirely, appearing as a shifting cloud of gas contained within a transparent environmental suit. The reptilian being spoke through a translation device attached to its throat. The mechanical voice carried no warmth or welcome. Human Representative Jake Morrison, I am Council Speaker Vexthari. You will follow me to the assembly chamber where your species will present its case for continued existence. The words sent a chill down Jake's spine, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. Thank you for this opportunity, Speaker Vexthari. I look forward to productive discussions about humanity's future relationship with the Galactic Council. Vexthari turned without responding and began walking through corridors that stretched beyond human scale. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above, while the walls displayed moving images of different worlds and species. Jake recognized none of them, but noted the beauty and diversity of galactic civilization. Surely there was room for one more species among so many. The journey to the assembly chamber took 20 minutes through corridors filled with aliens of every imaginable type. Some walked on legs while others floated or slithered. A few seemed to exist as pure energy contained in mechanical bodies. All of them stopped to stare at Jake with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. None showed anything resembling friendliness. The assembly chamber itself was enormous. Tiered seating rose up on all sides like an amphitheater, with each section designed for different types of beings. Some areas were filled with water for aquatic species, while others glowed with radiation that would kill most life forms. In the center was a raised platform where Jake would make his presentation. As he walked to the platform, Jake counted representatives from all 47 council species. The diversity was staggering, but he noticed something troubling. Every alien face showed the same expression of disgust when they looked at him. This was not the welcome he had hoped for. Speaker Vexthari took his position at the highest point in the chamber and activated another translation device. His voice boomed across the vast space. Council members, we gather today to determine the fate of the species calling itself human. Our survey fleets discovered their world 3 months ago. Initial observations suggest they may pose a threat to galactic stability. Jake felt his heart sink. This was supposed to be a diplomatic meeting to discuss peaceful integration. Instead, it sounded like a trial where humanity was already guilty. He activated his own translation device and spoke clearly into the chamber. Honorable Council members, I come before you as a representative of humanity seeking peaceful cooperation and mutual understanding. My species has much to offer the galactic community through our scientific knowledge, cultural diversity, and strong desire for peaceful coexistence with all intelligent life. A wave of hostile murmurs swept through the chamber. Several species began speaking at once in languages the translation system struggled to handle. Jake caught fragments of phrases like violent plague species and threat to civilized worlds. Speaker Vexthari raised one clawed hand for silence. Human Morrison, your species' history has been analyzed through intercepted communications. From your world, we have observed constant warfare, environmental destruction, and systematic oppression of your own kind. How do you explain these actions if humans truly desire peace? Jake had prepared for this question. He knew humanity's history was violent, but he also knew it had led to growth and wisdom. Speaker Vexthari, it is true that humanity has struggled with conflict throughout our history. However, these struggles taught us the value of cooperation and the terrible cost of war. Our greatest achievements have come through overcoming our differences and working together toward common goals. The crystalline being in the front row spoke with a voice like breaking glass. Your wars killed millions of your own species. Your pollution nearly destroyed your world. Your primitive nature makes you unsuitable for galactic civilization. Jake felt anger rising but forced it down. Losing his temper would only confirm their worst opinions about humanity. Every species faces challenges as it develops. We have learned from our mistakes and grown beyond our violent past. Given the opportunity, we can contribute valuable perspectives to the Council based on our unique experiences. The gas form being in the environmental suit spoke next. Our analysis shows humans are genetically predisposed to violence and territorial aggression. These traits cannot be changed. They make your species fundamentally incompatible with peaceful galactic society. More murmurs of agreement swept through the chamber. Jake realized with growing horror that this was not a diplomatic meeting at all. The Council had already decided humanity's fate before he even arrived. They were simply going through the motions of a trial to justify their predetermined conclusion. Speaker Vexthari stood to his full imposing height. The Council has heard enough. We will now vote on the classification of the human species. Jake tried one final desperate appeal. Please, honorable council members, do not judge all of humanity by our past mistakes. We came here seeking friendship and cooperation. Give us a chance to prove we can live peacefully among the stars. The vote was swift and unanimous. 47 different species all agreed on humanity's fate. Speaker Vexthari announced the result with obvious satisfaction. The Galactic Council hereby classifies the human species as a clear and present danger to galactic stability. All human colonies will be quarantined immediately. The homeworld designated Earth will be sterilized to prevent further spread of this violent plague species. Jake felt the words hit him like physical blows. Everything he had worked for, everything humanity had hoped for, was destroyed in a single moment. But worse was yet to come. Jake Morrison stood frozen on the platform as the Council's verdict echoed through the vast chamber. Sterilization of Earth meant the death of 8 billion human beings. He had come here hoping to secure humanity's future among the stars, but instead had witnessed their death sentence. Speaker Vexthari descended from his elevated position with slow, deliberate steps. His 6 eyes remained fixed on Jake with cold satisfaction. The other council members watched in silence as if waiting for some predetermined signal. Jake noticed several species recording the proceedings with devices he did not recognize. Human. Morrison, Vexthari said through his mechanical translator, your species' execution will serve as an example to any other primitive civilizations that might seek contact with the Council. We have maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years by eliminating threats before they can spread their violence. Jake found his voice despite the shock and terror coursing through his body. You cannot murder 8 billion innocent people based on fear and prejudice. Many humans have never harmed anyone in their entire lives. Children who have never known war or violence. How can you justify genocide against beings who have done nothing wrong? The crystalline being from the front row spoke with its glass-breaking voice. Your emotional appeal proves our point exactly. Humans are ruled by irrational feelings rather than logical thinking. This makes you unpredictable and dangerous to civilized species. Jake realized with growing horror that nothing he could say would change their minds. The council had made their decision long before he arrived at the station. This entire proceeding was nothing more than a show trial designed to justify mass murder. At least allow me to contact Earth, Jake pleaded. Let me warn my people so they can prepare defenses or attempt evacuation. Give them a chance to fight for their survival. Vexthari's scaled face twisted into what might have been a smile on her reptilian features. There will be no warnings and no escape. However, we will allow you to send one final transmission to your world. Consider it a last gift to your doomed species. Jake's mind raced as he considered his options. A final message to Earth could serve multiple purposes beyond just saying goodbye. He could warn humanity about the Council's true nature and provide intelligence about their enemies. Most importantly, he could ensure that humans would not go quietly into extinction. I accept your offer, Jake said with as much dignity as he could manage. Allow me to record a message for my people. Vexthari gestured to a floating device that descended from the chamber ceiling. The machine extended several sensors and projection lenses toward Jake. Speak human. Tell your species how their representative failed them in their moment of greatest need. Jake straightened his shoulders and looked directly into the recording device. Behind the machine he could see all 47 council species watching with anticipation. They expected him to break down in tears or beg for mercy. Instead, Jake Morrison drew upon 20 years of diplomatic training and prepared to deliver the most important speech in human history. My fellow humans, Jake began in a clear, steady voice. I am Ambassador Jake Morrison speaking to you from the Galactic Council Station. I came here with hopes of securing humanity's place among the civilized species of the galaxy. Instead, I have learned that we face an enemy more dangerous than any we have ever encountered. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This was not the broken plea for mercy they had expected to hear. The Galactic Council has voted unanimously to exterminate our entire species. They call us violent and primitive, but their own actions reveal the truth. They are cowards who destroy what they fear rather than try to understand it. They have ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years through intimidation and genocide. Vexthari started forward, but Jake continued speaking before the alien could interrupt. They believe they can murder 8 billion innocent human beings without consequence. They think we will die quietly like frightened animals. They are wrong. Humanity has faced extinction before and survived through courage, determination, and unity. We will face this threat the same way our ancestors faced every challenge throughout history. The chamber erupted in angry voices from dozens of different species. Translation devices struggled to keep up with the cacophony of alien languages. Jake raised his voice above the chaos. Remember us not for how we died, but for how we lived. Show them what humans are truly capable of when they push us too far. Make them regret the day they decided to threaten humanity. Make them pay for every human life they take. Do not go gentle into that good night. Vexthari reached the platform and grabbed Jake by the shoulder with claws that tore through his diplomatic uniform. Enough of your poisonous words, human. Your species will learn the price of defying the Council's judgment. Jake looked directly into Vexthari's 6 eyes without flinching. My people will learn something far more important. They will learn that some things are worth dying for and some enemies are worth destroying completely. The reptilian being's claws tightened until blood began seeping through Jake's torn uniform. You speak of destruction, human, but you do not understand what true power means. Allow me to demonstrate. Vexthari dragged Jake to the center of the platform where a circular depression had opened in the floor. Strange energy patterns began swirling in the air above the depression. Jake realized with sick certainty that he was looking at some kind of execution device. This is a molecular incinerator, Vexthari explained with obvious pleasure. It will break down your body at the atomic level while keeping your nervous system intact. You will remain conscious and able to feel pain until the very end. Your death will take approximately 10 minutes and will be broadcast to Earth as our final message to your species. Jake felt terror clawing at his mind but forced himself to remain standing upright. His people would be watching this transmission. He could not let them see him break down in fear. He had to show them how a human being faced death with dignity and courage. Do your worst, Jake said simply. Humanity has endured worse things than you and survived. We will survive you too. The energy field activated around Jake's feet and immediately began climbing up his legs. The pain was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It felt as if every atom in his body was being torn apart and set on fire simultaneously. Jake bit down hard to prevent himself from screaming, but could not stop the involuntary sounds of agony that escaped his throat through the haze of unimaginable pain. Jake could see the council members watching with satisfaction. Some were still recording while others simply enjoyed the spectacle of human suffering. These creatures who claimed to represent civilization were nothing more than sadistic monsters who derived pleasure from torture and murder. The molecular fire reached Jake's waist, and the pain increased beyond what he thought possible. His vision began to blur, but he forced himself to keep looking at the recording device. His people needed to see this. They needed to understand exactly what kind of enemy they faced. This is what galactic civilization looks like, Jake managed to gasp out between waves of agony. Remember this moment. Remember what they did to us. Make them pay. The incinerator field consumed more of his body, and Jake Morrison died as he had lived, standing upright and defiant in the face of overwhelming odds. His final transmission would reach Earth in 6 hours and change the course of galactic history forever. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters watching the screens that showed Jake Morrison's final moments. The transmission had reached Earth 6 hours ago, and every human being on the planet had seen their ambassador die in agony. The molecular incinerator had taken exactly 10 minutes and 12 seconds to consume him completely while he remained conscious and defiant. Until the very end, the reaction was immediate and universal. Every nation on Earth declared war simultaneously. The United Nations dissolved itself and reformed as the Terran War Council with Admiral Hayes as Supreme Commander. For the first time in human history, every government, corporation, military force, and colony united under a single purpose. The Galaxy Council had given humanity something they had never possessed before. A common enemy that threatened their very existence. General Carl Johnson burst through the command center doors, carrying urgent reports from military bases around the world. Admiral, we have complete mobilization across all human territories. The Mars colonies are converting their mining ships into assault vessels. The asteroid belt workers are volunteering to build weapons platforms. Even the civilian transport companies are offering their ships for military conversion. Hayes nodded grimly as she studied the tactical displays. What about our technological disadvantages, General? The Council species have weapons and defenses we cannot match with current human technology. Dr. Ryan Clark stepped forward from his position at the Scientific Analysis Station. The elderly xenobiologist had spent his entire career studying alien life forms through intercepted communications and deep space observations. His knowledge would be crucial in the coming war. Admiral, I have been analyzing the Council species for the past 6 hours, Dr. Clark said with excitement in his voice. These aliens have a critical weakness that they do not even realize. They have been at peace for 3,000 years. None of their species have evolved under the constant threat of warfare like humanity has. Hayes turned to face the scientist fully. Explain what you mean, Doctor. Clark activated a holographic Display showing biological data on various Council species. Every species in the Galaxy Council achieved interstellar travel through cooperation and scientific advancement. They developed their technology through peaceful research over thousands of years. They have never needed to innovate under pressure or adapt to constantly changing threats. Colonel Amy Foster joined the group around the display. She had served as Earth's top military strategist during the Mars colonial wars and understood warfare better than anyone alive. "Are you saying they do not know how to fight, Doctor?" "Exactly, Colonel," Clark replied. "These species may have advanced weapons, but they lack the tactical creativity and adaptive thinking that comes from evolutionary pressure. Humans developed intelligence specifically to survive in hostile environments against dangerous enemies. We are natural warriors bred through millions of years of struggle." Hayes felt a cold smile cross her face as she understood the implications. "They can build better weapons, but we know how to use weapons more effectively. They have superior individual technologies, but we excel at combining existing technologies in unexpected ways." General Johnson pulled up military production reports on his tablet. "Admiral, our weapons factories are already working around the clock. We cannot match their technology, but we can produce massive quantities of simpler weapons. Nuclear missiles, kinetic bombardment systems, chemical weapons, biological agents." Colonel Foster added her own analysis. "The Council species fight according to established rules and protocols. Humans fight to win by any means necessary. They will expect honorable combat while we give them total war." Dr. Clark highlighted specific species data on his display. "I have identified critical vulnerabilities in each Council race. The Zephyrians with their crystalline bodies can be shattered by specific sound frequencies. The gas form ethereals depend on their environmental suits, which can be breached. The hive minds lose all coordination if their central nodes are destroyed." Admiral Hayes called for attention from everyone in the command center. Military officers, scientists, engineers, and communications specialists all turned to hear her words. The weight of humanity's survival rested on the decisions made in this room over the next few hours. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Galaxy Council has made the greatest mistake in their 3,000-year history. They have united humanity against a common threat. They expect us to cower in fear while they prepare their sterilization fleets. Instead, we will show them what 8 billion angry humans are capable of when they have nothing left to lose." The room erupted in determined voices as officers began coordinating the largest military mobilization in human history. Every space-capable vessel, from military cruisers to civilian cargo haulers, would be converted for combat. Every orbital platform would become a weapons battery. Every human settlement would serve as a forward operating base for the coming war. Captain Ben Torres entered the command center still wearing his retirement uniform. At 62 years old, he had officially ended his military career after the Mars colonial wars, but Jake Morrison's execution had brought him back to active duty. His expertise in asymmetric warfare would be invaluable against technologically superior enemies. "Admiral Hayes," Torres said with barely controlled fury in his voice, "I volunteer to lead the first strike against Council targets. Give me a fleet of suicide ships, and I will show these aliens what human determination looks like." Hayes studied the veteran officer who had spent 40 years fighting for humanity in various conflicts. "Captain Torres, I am giving you command of the First Strike Fleet. Your mission is to hit their supply lines and communication networks. Make them bleed while our main forces prepare for the larger campaign." Torres saluted sharply. "Understood, Admiral." "How many ships can you give me?" General Johnson consulted his mobilization reports. "Captain, we have converted 200 cargo vessels into nuclear delivery systems. Each ship carries a volunteer crew willing to die for humanity. We also have 500 civilian transports that can be armed with conventional weapons." Dr. Clark provided additional intelligence for the strike mission. "Captain Torres, I recommend targeting the Council's communication relay stations first. They coordinate their forces through a network of quantum transmitters. Destroy those stations and you will blind their entire military. Colonel Foster spread tactical maps across the display table. The Council has 17 major supply depots within 50 light-years of Earth. They use automated cargo ships that follow predictable routes. Perfect targets for hit-and-run attacks. Admiral Hayes made the final decision for humanity's opening move in the Galactic War. Captain Torres, you will launch in 72 hours with 700 ships and volunteers who understand this is a one-way mission. Your job is to hurt them badly enough that they realize humanity will not die quietly. The preparations began immediately as Earth's entire industrial capacity shifted to war production. Factories that built civilian electronics began manufacturing guidance systems for nuclear missiles. Shipyards that serviced commercial vessels started installing weapon systems on anything that could fly through space. Research laboratories focused all their efforts on developing new ways to kill alien enemies. The most important change was in humanity itself. Jake Morrison's execution had transformed 8 billion individual humans into a single organism focused on revenge and survival. Every person on Earth now shared the same goal: make the Galaxy Council pay for their crimes against humanity. The aliens had expected to terrorize humans into submission, but instead had created the most dangerous enemy they would ever face. Within 72 hours, Captain Torres would launch the first human attack against galactic civilization and begin a war that would reshape the galaxy forever. Captain Ben Torres stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the final preparations for humanity's first strike against the Galaxy Council. Around him floated 700 ships of every size and description. Cargo haulers converted into nuclear delivery systems, passenger transports armed with missile batteries, and mining vessels loaded with kinetic bombardment weapons. Each ship carried volunteers who understood they would not be coming home. The target was the Kepler 438 system, where the Council maintained their largest communication relay station. Dr. Clark's intelligence indicated that destroying this facility would blind Council forces across 12 sectors and disrupt their ability to coordinate defensive responses. It was the perfect target for humanity's opening move in what would become the bloodiest war in galactic history. Lieutenant Sarah Murphy piloted her modified fighter alongside Torres' flagship. At 26 years old, she had volunteered for the suicide mission despite having a family waiting for her on Mars. Jake Morrison's execution had filled her with rage that could only be satisfied by alien blood. Her fighter carried a single nuclear warhead powerful enough to crack open a battleship. "All ships report ready for jump," announced Commander Pete Wilson from the communications station. The fleet had trained for 3 months in secret locations throughout the solar system. Every pilot knew their target and understood the importance of their mission. Failure would doom humanity to extinction, while success would buy time for Earth's larger military forces to prepare. Torres activated the fleet communication system. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we begin humanity's response to Jake Morrison's murder. The Galaxy Council believes we are primitive animals who will die quietly when threatened. They are about to learn how wrong they are. Remember that every alien ship you destroy is one less weapon pointed at Earth. Make your deaths count." The fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect formation. The journey to Kepler 438 would take 18 hours, during which the volunteers prepared for battle with calm determination. Many recorded final messages to their families, while others spent the time checking and rechecking their weapon systems. A few simply sat in meditation, preparing their minds for the ultimate sacrifice. The Galaxy Council had no idea that humanity possessed faster-than-light travel. Their intelligence reports indicated that humans were barely capable of interplanetary flight within their own solar system. This massive intelligence failure would prove fatal as 700 human ships materialized in Kepler 438. Without warning, the Council's defensive fleet consisted of 36 vessels from various species. Crystalline Zephyrian cruisers with energy shields that could deflect most known weapons. Ethereal gas-form ships that could phase between dimensions to avoid attacks. hive mind vessels that coordinated their movements with perfect precision. Against any normal enemy, these ships would have been nearly invincible. They were not prepared for humans. Torres gave the attack order and chaos erupted throughout the system. Human ships ignored all conventional tactical doctrine and charged directly at their targets with nuclear weapons armed and ready. The Council fleet tried to respond with their standard defensive formations but found themselves overwhelmed by sheer numbers and suicidal determination. Lieutenant Murphy targeted a Zephyrian cruiser that was attempting to retreat toward the system's edge. The alien ship's crystalline hull reflected weapon fire like a mirror, but Murphy had studied Dr. Clark's biological reports carefully. She activated her fighter's sonic transmitters and broadcast a specific frequency that resonated through the enemy vessel's crystal structure. The Zephyrian ship began vibrating violently as its own hull became a weapon against it. Stress fractures appeared along the crystal surface and spread rapidly through the entire vessel. Within minutes, the massive cruiser shattered into a million glittering fragments that scattered across space like deadly confetti. One alien ship down, Murphy reported with grim satisfaction. Beginning attack run on communication station. The relay station itself was protected by defensive platforms and energy barriers that should have been impenetrable. Council engineers had designed the facility to withstand attacks from conventional weapons and coordinated fleet actions. They had not considered the possibility of 700 ships attacking simultaneously. With no regard for their own survival, human vessels rammed through the energy barriers while their hulls were still burning from defensive fire. Nuclear weapons detonated against the station's armor in brilliant flashes that could be seen from the system's outer planets. Kinetic bombardment rounds punched through defensive plating at relativistic speeds that turned metal into plasma on impact. Commander Wilson coordinated the assault from Torres' flagship while monitoring communications intercepts from across the galaxy. Captain, we are receiving emergency transmissions from Council fleets in 17 systems. They are reporting complete communication blackouts and requesting instructions. Torres smiled coldly as he watched another section of the relay station explode in a cascade of secondary detonations. Let them stumble around in the dark, Commander. The more confused they are, the better our chances of hitting them again before they can adapt. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had provided the fleet with biological weapons specifically designed for each Council species. Her work represented the darkest aspect of human scientific capability, but desperate times required desperate measures. The weapons were deployed through modified atmospheric processors that could contaminate entire ship life support systems. The first hive mind vessel to encounter Rodriguez's bioweapon experienced a complete breakdown of their collective consciousness. Individual drones began attacking each other as the biological agent disrupted their mental connections. Within hours, the massive ship was drifting powerless through space filled with the corpses of aliens who had killed themselves in confused rage. Biological weapons are proving effective against hive mind targets, reported Major Kate Davis from her assault transport. Recommend immediate deployment against all remaining enemy vessels of this type. The battle for Kepler 438 lasted 6 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Council's defensive fleet and communication facility. Of the 700 human ships that began the attack, only 12 survived to return home. Each of those survivors carried detailed intelligence about alien ship designs, weapon capabilities, and tactical weaknesses that would prove invaluable in future engagements. Captain Torres did not survive the battle. His flagship was destroyed while making the final assault run against the relay station's control center. His last transmission to Earth simply said, "Jake Morrison is avenged, but this is only the beginning." The news of humanity's first victory spread across Earth within hours and transformed the planet's mood from desperate determination to savage joy. 8 billion humans celebrated as they watched footage of alien ships burning in the darkness of space. The Galaxy Council had awakened something terrible in humanity, and now they would face the consequences of their actions. Admiral Hayes received the battle reports with mixed emotions. The victory was crucial for human morale, but the cost had Then enormous. 700 volunteers had died to destroy a single facility and 36 enemy ships. At this rate, humanity would need to find more efficient ways to kill aliens or risk running out of ships and crews before the war was won. The Galaxy Council's response came 48 hours later when their main battle fleet began moving toward Earth. 3,000 ships from 47 different species united in their determination to exterminate humanity before the infection of violence could spread further through the galaxy. They expected to find a primitive world defended by obsolete weapons and terrified civilians. Instead, they would find 8 billion humans who had spent the last 3 months preparing for total war. 2 years after Jake Morrison's execution, the Galaxy Council was collapsing under the relentless assault of human forces. What had begun as a simple extermination mission had become a nightmare that consumed entire star systems. Of the original 47 Council species, only 15 remained in the war. The others had either surrendered unconditionally or fled to the distant edges of the galaxy where they hoped humanity would never find them. General Chris Walker commanded the final assault on the Galactic Council station where Jake Morrison had died. The massive structure that had once symbolized alien authority now drifted powerless through space, surrounded by the wreckage of its defensive fleet. Human ships filled the void around the station, like angry wasps preparing to destroy the hive that had threatened their colony. Walker himself piloted the lead assault transport carrying 200 Marines specially trained for zero-gravity combat. Each soldier wore armor painted with Jake Morrison's final words and carried weapons designed specifically for killing aliens in enclosed spaces. They had volunteered for this mission knowing that capturing the station would require brutal close-quarters fighting against desperate enemies. The docking bay doors had been sealed, but human engineers had developed new tools for such obstacles. Plasma cutters originally designed for asteroid mining sliced through alien metal like butter, while explosive charges cleared away defensive barriers. Within minutes, the Marines were pouring through breached airlocks into corridors where no human had walked. Since Morrison's final day, Admiral Lisa Hayes coordinated the assault from her flagship while monitoring reports from across the galaxy. Human fleets were simultaneously attacking the last Council strongholds in 17 different systems. The strategy was simple and brutal. Hit every remaining enemy position at once so they could not support each other or organize any kind of coordinated defense. General Walker, you have priority access to Speaker Vexthari, Hayes transmitted to the assault force. Intelligence reports indicate he is hiding in the station's central command section. I want him taken alive if possible. Walker acknowledged the order while leading his Marines through corridors filled with the bodies of alien defenders. The Council's remaining forces had fought desperately, but they were no match for humans who had spent 2 years perfecting the art of killing aliens. Every weapon and tactic had been tested in dozens of previous battles across the galaxy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had developed her most lethal biological weapons specifically for this final assault. The station's air circulation system had been compromised hours before the attack began and now carried deadly agents designed to target each remaining Council species. Zephyrions found their crystalline bodies dissolving from within, while Ethereals discovered that their gas-form existence offered no protection against microscopic killers. The human advance through the station was swift and merciless. Marines used flamethrowers to clear hive mind nests and sonic weapons to shatter crystalline defenders. Rooms that had once hosted diplomatic meetings between dozens of species now served as slaughterhouses where humanity's rage finally found its ultimate expression. Commander Lisa Park led a specialized team toward the station's central archives where the Council kept records of their 3,000-year reign. The information contained in those files would be invaluable for establishing human authority over former Council territories. More importantly, the archives contained evidence of other species that the Council had exterminated over the centuries. Admiral Hayes, we have accessed the central database, Park reported while her technicians downloaded massive amounts of information. The Council has destroyed at least 200 different species since they came to power. They classified anyone who showed independence or military potential as threats requiring elimination. Hayes felt sick satisfaction as she received the intelligence reports. The Galaxy Council had not been the peaceful civilization they claimed to be, but rather a genocidal empire that destroyed any species capable of challenging their authority. Jake Morrison's execution was simply the latest in a long series of murders designed to maintain their grip on galactic power. General Walker reached the Central Command section after fighting through 3 levels of increasingly desperate alien defenders. The final blast doors had been sealed and reinforced, but human demolition charges made short work of even the strongest alien materials. When the smoke cleared, Walker found himself face to face with Speaker Vexthari cowering behind a personal energy shield, the reptilian being who had murdered Jake Morrison with such obvious pleasure now trembled in fear as human soldiers surrounded his position. His 6 eyes darted frantically around the room looking for some escape route that did not exist. The mighty council speaker who had ruled over 47 species was reduced to a terrified animal trapped by predators. "Vexthari," Walker said through his helmet's external speakers. "I am General Chris Walker of the Terran Armed Forces. You are under arrest for the murder of Ambassador Jake Morrison and genocide against the human species." The alien's translation device crackled with static as he tried to speak. "Human Walker, I acted according to Council law and galactic regulations. Your species was classified as a threat based on scientific analysis and historical precedent." Walker gestured to his Marines who disabled Vexthari's energy shield with a focused electromagnetic pulse. The alien collapsed to the floor as his protective barrier disappeared, leaving him completely vulnerable to human justice. "Your laws mean nothing now," Walker said coldly. "The Council is finished and humanity will decide how to deal with its former members. You murdered our ambassador in front of the entire galaxy and expected us to submit in fear. Instead, you created your own worst nightmare." Vexthari was dragged to the station's main assembly chamber where Jake Morrison had made his final speech. Human engineers had rebuilt the molecular incinerator that had killed their ambassador, and now the alien who operated it would experience its effects firsthand. The execution was broadcast across the galaxy as humanity's final message to any species that might consider threatening Earth. Unlike Morrison's prolonged torture, Vexthari's death was swift and professional. Humanity had proven they were better than their enemies even in the moment of ultimate revenge. The Galaxy Council died with their leader and a new age began across the stars. Admiral Hayes established the new galactic government from Earth with humanity as the dominant species, but not as tyrants like the Council had been. Species that surrendered were offered protection and representation, while those who had fled were invited to return and join the new order. The brutal efficiency with which humans had dismantled 3,000 years of alien rule earned both fear and respect throughout the galaxy. The war's end brought unexpected consequences as dozens of previously oppressed species emerged from hiding to welcome their human liberators. The Council's reign of terror had affected far more civilizations than anyone realized, and humanity found itself governing a galaxy eager for freedom and justice. Commander Park delivered the eulogy at Jake Morrison's memorial ceremony, which was attended by representatives from over 100 different species. Jake Morrison came to the stars seeking peace for humanity. Instead, his sacrifice gave us the galaxy. His death united our species and showed us what we could achieve when we fought for something greater than ourselves. The memorial stood on the exact spot where Morrison had died. But now the chamber served as the assembly hall for a truly representative galactic government. His final words were carved into the walls in every language spoken by intelligent life. "Remember us not for how we died, but for how we lived." Humanity had proven that some species become most dangerous when they have nothing left to lose and everything to fight for.